and gentlemen, and welcome to today's edition of Economic Briefcase. I'm your host, Lubinda Bazoka. Today with me in the studio is my co-host, Mr. Noah Japao. Mr. Japao, how's been the week?
Good evening, Doug. Good evening, viewers. The week has been well. How's been your week?
It has been rough. It has been a very busy week. Too much rain, too much London weather, and all of a sudden Saudi Arabia weather. So that has had an effect on my ability to function. But there's no way we can just stay still. The clock is running. We need to
get with the time.
Yeah, sustainability of economic freedom.
We rely on education.
So we need to fight ignorance. We need to educate the people. And on today's program, by the way, we have a very wonderful guest. We are not going to introduce them now. First, I think let's find out what's happening on the money, capital, and commodities markets.
Okay, so the brief market update as of today, the 16th of February 2023, the kwacha against the four major currencies. So the kwacha closed off selling at 19 kwacha, 43 ngwe against the dollar. The kwacha closed off selling at 23 kwacha, 14 ngwe against the pound. The kwacha closed off selling at 20 kwacha, 18 ngwe against the euro. Kwacha closed off selling at 1 kwacha, 7 ngwe against the rand. Selected metal prices delayed by a day. Aluminium closed selling at $2,367. Copper closed off selling at $8,826 per ton. Zinc closed off selling at $3,067 per ton. Lead closed off selling at $2,062.50 per ton. Tin closed off selling at $26,325. Nickel closed off selling at $25,805. Crude oil prices. WTI crude closed selling at $78.67. Brent crude closed selling at $85.44. That's all we had for the market update.
So we can see that crude, is shedding some weight. WTI is at $76 per barrel. We can also see that Brent is going down. Let's hope that we maintain the momentum and stabilize the Zambian kwacha. Maybe we can see few of our prices stabilize.
And as well, we can see the kwacha has
shed off some weight.
Yes, but we still remain above the 19 mark, above the 19 kwacha mark.
I think that we need to, the proper, value of the Zambian kwacha versus the US dollar should be around 15 kwacha per dollar. I think at that rate you even start seeing cars coming in, but 19, 20 maybe it can be a bit tricky. Let's hope that with the interventions that the central bank has put in vis-a-vis the increased reserve ratios, increased policy rate, we shall squeeze up or mop up excess liquidity that is causing pressure on the kwacha.
Doc, as well, despite all these challenges that we are facing, it seems that the kwacha is one of the currencies that has remained resilient over time.
Yes, the kwacha is performing very well. I think
in comparison to other currencies.
For other currencies, the rand is still at 17. The kwacha is at 19. So we can't really say that the kwacha has outperformed other currencies, because 3-4 months ago it was 15.9 kwacha to a dollar, and it was about 16 rands to a dollar. Now it's 17 rand to a dollar. Ours is 19. So let's just hope that we see stability. Talking about the kwacha and mine output, brings us to today's topic. Our guest comes from a place where the grass does not grow. The majority of the vegetation there, we call it Ulunsonga. Okay. And it comes right where the mining activities are. And today's guest discussing with us the role of politics in economic development He's a very old friend of mine. I know him for quite a long time now. We've been together at some point in the train chairs. And this is Honorable Watson Maweta. Honorable Maweta, it's a pleasure having you on Camnet TV.
Well, good evening, Doc. I think it's always a happy moment to meet again after a long time.
After a long time.
Yeah.
Welcome, Honorable.
Thank you. I think it is always a pleasure to be here today. I've always, we've worked together so many times, and we've seen each other maybe go separate ways, but today we're together on a common ground. That is the role of politics and economic development, especially economics.
Economics, yes.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah, I remember, I think I met you, when we met under different circumstances. Then we met somewhere else, surprisingly, under different circumstances. And today we have met on the set, CBU versus CBU.
Yeah. So for our viewers who might not know who the Honorable is, maybe you can give us a brief background about yourself. Who
Honorable Maweta is, and your path that led you to
where you are now,
to Manda Hill.
Wow, it's quite a long story, Doc, but I'll try to be brief. Before you met me at Barclays, where I was working as a cashier, obviously I was at CBO, where I did my Bachelor of Science in Production and Operation Management. Before that, I was at Rusangu Secondary from grade 8 to grade 12, where my parents thought I needed that Christian base for me to add to my education growth so that it could provide a base on which I was able to stand on in future endeavors. So I'm a married man with 3 kids. God has blessed us with 3 boys. Yeah, so I'm basically, before joining politics, I've been a community worker. I've done much of my life, engaging the community, building capacities together, working. We've done a lot together. My father was a policeman. He was an officer in charge at the Butondo Police Camp, and my mother is still a marketeer in Butondo Market. So I basically come from a humble background, Doc. We believe in certain values from that set of living. So how did I find myself in politics?
Yes.
I remember the time when you and me were on the Copper Belt. Yes. After we met in the bank, obviously, I stopped working for the bank. I decided to start my own business. So as the business was going, obviously there was a need to start supporting policies which were going to add value to what we were doing. So you and me, I think we met under the UPND strategic, the think tank on the Copper Belt, which had the task to ensure that we grow the numbers for the UPND. I remember that time when we joined that team, UPND had only 18,000 votes in 2011, compared to what PF had 475. So it was a huge task, so much that it was almost an impossible task to even think or maybe jump on the train to look at how UPND was going to grow. So, but with time, obviously, in trying to implement those, remember those projections we were doing, the strategies we were doing, we started getting more involved in the implementation. We had the plan, but we didn't have enough people to start implementing what we were strategizing. So, obviously, after the 2015 by-election, after President Michael Sata passed on, may his soul rest in peace, I think that was a very tightly contested election. So after the loss, the UPND lost with a margin of 27,000 votes, which came from VUI, I think it became unavoidable to really get involved in the actual mobilization. We couldn't stay in the terraces anymore looking at how close the result was. So there was a lot of hope to say 2016 was going to be a year UPND was going to break through after struggling the opposition for so many years. So by getting involved, pushing people, mobilizing, I think the people in Kankoro started seeing my passion, and they started agreeing to the ideas we were trying to put on the table to mobilize the party at a time when the party was very unpopular on the Copper Belt. So because I was so much involved, I ended up finding myself being the player on the field than being on the technical bench. So because of that involvement, I contested in 2016, and then I can say fortunately, I lost that election with the smallest margin in the country. I stood against Dr. Brown Mshimba, who was the minister then. But that didn't discourage us. I think the most encouraging part was what we had put on the paper actualized. I think if you can remember the figures which we did, the projections we did, you and I, and other people
they came
together,
out the same.
They came out exactly like what we had anticipated. So it gave us the hope to say with the proper planning.
When am I going to get paid for that?
Yeah, I'm sure that will reward you. Yeah, so because of the plans we put and the results how they came, it gave us hope to say. And when you plan properly, you start implementing and you work on certain things. You know, we planned over 14 months and we got the result we were looking for. Although it wasn't enough to win the national vote, but it was an encouragement to say if we continue planning properly and implementing the strategizing, 2021 was going to give us the last chance to see that Zambians are given a different set of leadership, a different aspect of perspective of how things are going to look. So obvious, continued mobilizing, never gave up, continued engaging. And when 2021 came, obvious, we are blessed the Zambian people gave us this rare opportunity to be in the position of making decisions which which are going to affect them, unfortunately, both positively and negatively. So my political journey, obviously, comes from the same backdoor meetings we used to have, where you plan but you don't have someone to implement what you planned. So you end up being the implementer, and through implementation become the politician who never thought would be a politician in my life.
Actually, disclosed the background about Doc that he hasn't really talked about.
With very humble people.
Yeah.
So Kankoyo is, I did a project there with the World Bank called Zamrip. So we did the baseline study. Kankoyo was one of the most hit in terms of reduced mining activities. The reduced mining activities. What are your plans? What are you doing now for the people of Kankoyo? So that I've seen on your Facebook page you gave them a tractor, and I think one of the persons that was commenting was saying, "Why do you give a tractor in Kankoyo?" And of course, I've seen there's land and there's abundant water. So what else? Which other interventions are you doing for your constituency?
On a lighter note, I thought you said it's a dry place. There's only Ulunsonge.
No, what happens is that when you just come out of that place, the greens start. That's outside the. So the way Kankoyo is that the mine area where the center reaches. The further you go from the pit, from the center, the more greener it becomes. I think I'm not lying.
Yeah, Doc, you're right. I think. Kankoyo being one of the poor communities we have in the country, second to Nalolo, obviously always gets hit whenever there are challenges in the mining sector. I think over time, since the 1973-74, we've seen metal prices going up, going down. So every time the metal prices go down, obviously the first people to be retrenched are the general workers, the lower paying jobs, obviously what we call Chiwombe. And the majority of the people in Kankoyo, unfortunately, they are in those lower brackets of the jobs they do. So when the mining starts going down, poverty quickly escalates because of already you are retrenching someone who was getting a lower paying job, and then you put them on the street, or that they walk away with very minimal packages. So poverty quickly moves in. So because of that, I think since 1963, we haven't really looked at life beyond mining, diversification. How are we going to tackle this challenge of we don't have control over the mining in the copper prices. We don't have control over the cost of mining, because the more you go deep as you are trying to get the ore, the higher the cost. So where the mine starts, where the company starts experiencing high cost, the first thing they do is obvious to improve on their technologies, is to go mechanize. They have to go mechanical. They have to mechanize the operation so that per unit cost drops. So they are going mechanical, where the 20 people may be loading a tipper, and they have one load that's going to do the job which 20 people are doing in a day shift. So as you are going mechanical, reducing the manual work, obviously reducing even the employment opportunity available. So immediately we were elected, we came into, in fact, before even we came into being, knowing the policies and what President Hakainde Hichilema was bringing on the table, which is economic recovery, we had to quickly start thinking about diversifying the economy. How are we going to start rebuilding the lives of the people of Kankoyo without over-depending on the mine? Yes, we need the mine. That's the mainstay. Everybody there, they came in the 1929, 1930s. I think Mufria mine was opened in 1929, but because of recession, it was closed, and it opened in 1931. So we quickly looked at starting to diversify the economy there. So this is where, when we are lucky, President Akande Hichilema announced that we are going to increase the CDF from the 1.6 to 25.7 in 2022. The first thing we thought of, this resource which has come on our disposal, it's a huge opportunity for us to start pushing the diversification agenda. If we don't make it now, Doc, then it means we never diversify the life of the people. So what do? The next best option is obviously agriculture. In the Kankoyo, despite being the area where, as you have said, which has been highly damaged by the pollution which was coming from for so many years from the mines, we still have some lands, off as we are going to Congo, where we have 3 farm blocks, over 5,000, over 100,000 arable land of, hectares of land is available for cultivation. We have 3 farm blocks. There's Mindela, there's Sato, and there's Minambe farm block. So we started tapping in those potentials. How do we break those areas to ensure that they start giving us the crops which we may need? Obviously, with the the majority of the people having worked in the mines, they have come out very weak. Others have got silicosis, others have got injuries, others they have got damages on their body. To be very difficult to give them a why and start expecting them to improve their productivity and production in that area. So the first thing we thought of among the projects we did when we got that CDF was to procure 2 farm tractors. There were 2 farm tractors with implements, a plow disc, everything, including a planter, so that we make it easy, even for the people who are currently working. Because the setup of the mine today is you work 4 days and 4 days are off. So when they get that 4 days, we need to make it easy for them to do all what they need to farm and plant to ensure that they increase the crop production. So our focus more is, while we have this mine, we shouldn't look at life, we need to start looking at life beyond mining. Because as we are discussing now, Doc, the ore which is left in the mine, if we finish the projects, I'm sure we're going to get into details of that. If the projects which Glencore started, when, because the president owned the copper belt today, and he has assured the people to money to invest and finish the project has been secured. So when those projects, the mine is revamped and start operating profitably, obviously we only have another 40 years of the mine running. So after 40 years, how are our children going to survive? We have this last 40 years of us with that mine which is going to operate, provided the conditions remain the same, copper price remain the same, obvious, the cost per unit remain the same. What is the future generation going to inherit? Are we giving them option B of what they're going to do after the mine closes? Because of the time when the mine is going to close, unfortunately, even if the mine is almost 100 years old today, it doesn't mean that that mine will continue running forever, because copper is a wasting asset, unfortunately. So no matter how much investment you're going to push in that mine, there will be a day when that mine is going to close completely. So we need to start pushing the diversification agenda. And that's something which we are driving very passionately, something which we believe we can do. I think you know what we went through after we publicly announced and got involved in politics. My businesses were closed, we were shut down by the previous regime, but we managed to survive through agriculture. So we've survived through that, and we're just bringing on the table the things which we have done practically. We are not daydreaming, we are not using textbook economics. We are looking at from a practical point of view. How did I manage to remain afloat despite my business being closed in 2015 up to 2021 because we went into farming. Yeah.
You're watching Economic Briefcase on Camnet TV. We are now opening your phone line. You can call us on the numbers that are appearing below the screen. You can also send us text messages on the same numbers if you feel shy to talk to us. Mwebena Mfrila, mwebena Rwansha, mwebena Msaka, wonsi wamene mchoka kuchipata waku Western Province. You can feel free to call us. We can interact. Now, coming to the national level, politics. Of course, you now in the ruling party, and basically politics shapes the way people are going to live in a nation. What is your party doing to ensure that there's less tension in the country that we have observed ever since we had multi-party, to a level whereby if somebody is perceived to belong to another party, they can't even be found together on the street because there will be accusation, but these are two human beings, maybe that not even go to the same church. So what do you have in, what is the UPND doing? What is the philosophy around uniting the nation and, for economic development?
Well, I think, Doc, as you have said, in the past it was so difficult even to associate yourself with the UPND. When we used to have the meeting, you and me, we used to have them at night. We need to hide because immediately we are going to be known that the UPND are going to be fired from CBO. This time, Doc, I can assure you to say there is so much freedom. Anyone can walk in anytime, can declare who they support. I've seen civil servants openly challenging the decision we're making as a party. So that has also brought some form of fresh hope. Number two, when it comes to economic benefits, in the past it was so difficult for anyone to get an opportunity to do business with the government or maybe even the private sector because you had to belong to a certain ruling class for you to get that opportunity. Yeah, you have to belong to a ruling, the party which was in government for even to get promoted. You have to get, for you to be a director in certain positions in government or parastatals, you have to belong to such a group. So that brought in so much tension because everyone was now fighting to either get the opportunity or to remove the government so that you can also become the next ruling class. So as UPND, I think the position the president has taken has given us a lot of hope to say we are now liberating the country where anyone, as long as you're able to perform, as long as you're able to deliver the result, you can get the same opportunity. I can give an example in my constituency. I'll keep on referring to the CDF because that's a resource we have got influence. Yes. So when we had this opportunity to send youth to different skills training center, you find that majority of the youths who got that opportunity first are those who are children of PF members, those who are the executive constituency chairman, the district chairman, the senior PF executive members. Their children have been sent and being paid for by this government to go to school, which was very rare in the past. When it came to empowerment, majority of the people who had already formed cooperatives and they were willing to take up the opportunities through the cooperative were empowering by giving them the grants. There are those cooperatives which are formed before. So most of the cooperatives which are operating before, those cooperatives which are associated with the PF. Out of the 55 cooperatives we gave in Kankoyo, 30 of them they are cooperatives which had majority PF members. So it is no longer becoming a fashion where for you to get an opportunity, you need to belong to UPND. But all that has come with a lot of a backlash. I can say it has come with a cost because UPND members, they're now thinking, because all of us, we thought when I become the MP in UPND, I become the next, don't want to give names, where it was all prestige and it was all, you had power, we have so much power, we have so much power to determine what happens tomorrow. So that has brought a bit of frustration among UPND members where they are seeing opportunities which they thought would only be for them are being shared equally. So that has brought in a lot of complaints. A lot of UPND members are complaining. They feel maybe as people in this position, we use them to get to where we are and have abandoned them. But we haven't abandoned them. We have brought equity on the table. There's a report which came yesterday from South Africa where Zambia has been chosen as the country with the fastest growing democracy in Africa. The South Africans themselves are debating and they said, Zambia, there's a lot happening. Why? Because you have distanced ourselves from colonizing your fellow citizens. Because if you are everything just going to be about UPND, that's a modern way of colonizing your fellow citizens. If for you to get a job at ZESCO, you need to be UPND. For you to get a contract at RDA, you need to be UPND. That is economic colonization. Yet simply telling people to say you have to be like this for you to get this opportunity. So that level of colonialism should never be tolerated to come back to this country. Yeah, Zambian people who sing One Zambia, One Nation. One Zambia, One Nation demands that we all spread whatever we have equitably for everyone to have an opportunity of access to what is being put on the table. So this country is being reformed. This country is being given an opportunity to grow again. And I think there's a lot of appetite from outside there who are, I mean, people are coming to learn to see how have we managed. It has come at a cost, obviously. The popularity amongst our members is dwindling every day because our members feel we haven't given them the power or haven't given the privilege like the other, like what used to happen in the past. So obviously that has come at a cost, but we continue engaging them and educating them to say we have no right to colonize our fellow citizens. Being in this privileged position doesn't give us so much power to determine who gets such an opportunity. So obviously when that recruitment came, teachers recruitment, the 30,000 recruitment, 11,000 health workers, a lot of UPND members expected their children to be the only ones who are going to be recruited. But when they saw that the net was cast wide, it brought a lot of complaints, which is, even today people are still bleeding because of such a move which the president decided to take. But for me, as a person who believes in one Zambia, one nation, I'm in total support of what the president is trying to put. This Zambia belongs to everyone. You don't need to be a politician to get an opportunity. As a doctor, you are a doctor, you are well qualified, you have got your own area of strength. You don't need to get involved in politics or belong to UPND for you to be able to have a voice, which is going to change the direction this country is going to take economically.
I can officially say that the president has now settled in his position. I think that one I can say. I know today he was, or this week he was on the Copper Belt. I think when I was coming, I saw a lot of police. I'm sure he's coming back today, or he has already arrived. The people of Kankor and the Copper Belt at large want to find out the position with Mopani. What is transpiring there? Well,
Doc, I think after Parliament closed, I went back to the community, to the constituents to start engaging the people. I could tell from their body language, our conversation, that there was a lot of coldness in them. You know, I could hear even in their voice, whenever I was on radio, maybe we were discussing on the supply of medication and what the government is doing, I could get calls on mining. There was a lot of complaint from the people coming from the mine. So I got interested to say, how come there's so much negative energy or negative feedback from the mine? What is not happening? What are we not doing right as UPND? So I decided to physically visit the mine. I went to the deepest point they call Pachilangamiro. This is a very hot place where, as you are working there, you need to have continuous supply of water for you to rehydrate yourself, because the temperatures sometimes go as high as 44 degrees while you're working there. Yes. So I went to understand and appreciate the challenges which was going in the mine. I found the machines parked there because the mine didn't have money to repair them. I saw how the contractors, some contractors working for contractors were going down to work underground, 1,533 meters deep down the earth, where it is very hot, without food or water, for 12 hours. So I realized to say this problem is deeper than what we thought. Because when I was there, Doc, for only 2 hours, when I came out, I had to depend on the Kampompo and the Zigolo to get my energy. Now, I compared myself to that person who's been working.
So you were there for 12 hours?
No, for 2 hours.
For 2 hours?
For 2 hours, yes. Underground.
Yeah, I can't go.
I thought I would never, but because when we hear people complaining, sometimes you need to feel what they feel for you to appreciate the challenges they are going through. So I also get to learn to say, even when we had meeting there, I got a very sad news to say, when those miners that are getting as low salaries as much as 1,300 kwacha, then they haven't been paid for 3 months. You know, they were working, getting the low salary, number one. Number two, they're not being paid. So like you're punishing a person twice. You give them very low income, then you don't pay them for 3 months. So how to engage in Mupani management? What is not happening? Why are we having this crisis? You are giving someone work to go and work, and in a very hot condition without water and food. The chances of that person collapsing is very high. These people are handling explosives. Someone is handling explosives and they lose their conscience. They're going to just go to blow up the mine. And a lot of innocent people are going to die, including themselves. Someone is driving a very big machine. I've never seen those big machines, which I found underground. Very big machine. And they don't have food and water. They are a risk to the operations. So one thing which came to light to me was the financial challenges which Mupani has. What are these financial challenges? Mupani has got 3 types of, I can say, capital requirements which they need. There's 1.5 billion, which Glencore claimed to say the investment they put in the mine after having bought that mine for 19 million. in the 1999, 2000. They have put in a lot of investment, so the value of the mine has increased from 19 million to 1.5 billion. The second one, obviously, the unfinished project I was talking about. They need to sink the mine. They need to sink the shaft to where the ore is. They're supposed to sink it. They're supposed to take it to 2,000, but they've only gone up to 1,500. So there's a 450 meter left for the shaft to go down where the mine is going to be. Then when they sink that shaft,
that to be 2 kilometers down.
Down, yes, 2 kilometers. Where I went was 1.5. Now when you go 2 kilometers, it's going to be more hot than where I was. Then they also need to develop, obviously, the air supply, the air conditioning, the lighting, but also they need to sink a pump chamber to pump out the water. They need to put a big pump chamber because as the more deeper you go, the more water tables you get across. So you need to pump a lot of water out of it. Then number 3, they also need to put a crusher, a big crusher, so that whatever is being mined is reduced to a level where they can put it on the conveyor into the shaft and the shaft takes it out of the mine. So those projects require a lot of money for you to finish. So there's a $300 million you need to finish that job. Then in number 3, because Glencore just abandoned that mine, Glencore was putting that mine under care and maintenance. According to the model, that mine was going to close within 9 months. So after Glencore left, they didn't leave the Mopani with the working capital. So because of that struggle to not having working capital, there was that political pronouncement to say whoever was working for the mine, they were going to be paid the terminal benefit. Yeah. So remember before government changed, there was partial payment, there was a balance. So as we were going into September, October, November, there was a lot of pressure from the miners to be paid the terminal benefit or the balances. So whatever Mopani had that raised through the processing of the ore they had to pay off the benefit. So the mine was crippled. They didn't have any working capital. They didn't have any cash to continue operating. The mine had to continue operating, Doc. So how do they continue operating? It's to continue getting the service without paying for it. So that bill has increased to $140 million. So we're talking of 1.5 billion, $300 million, plus the 140 million the Mopani owes the contractors. Now, because Mopani owes the contractors, even the contractors failed to pay the salaries to the people they have employed to do their job. So that's why you find yourself in a situation where someone is working, being paid 1.3 and not getting their salary consistently. But that is the government property. What do we need to do? I quickly came in, engaged the Minister of Finance. He referred me to the Secretary, to the Treasurer, and told me to say, see what you can do so that that mine doesn't become a disaster to us. The government is aware that there is need to pump in a lot of money, but obviously before pumping the money you are going to put in that mine, you need to review the claim Glencore keeps on claiming to say they increase the value of the mine from 19 million to 1.5 billion. So as that process of evaluation is going through, we need to continue pushing money into the mine so that the mine doesn't close. If a mine stops pumping water just for 1 hour, the amount of water which is going to accumulate underground is so immense that to pump it out are going to spend a lot of money. Sometimes it even becomes uneconomical to continue operating the mine once it's flooded. All you do is abandon it. So through the engagement, the Minister of Finance quickly engaged ZCHI. The government managed to raise $15 million, which they gave the mine to ensure that they pay a bit of contractors and what. So as I'm speaking today, the mine is up to date with the contractors. But that is not enough, because that $15 million is a drop compared to the $140 million, which is needed to pay off. Through the negotiation and the engagement, obviously the renewed investor confidence, Glencore is back to say, no, I'm still want my 1.5 billion to be raised by this mine. So I'm not going to look at this mine going down. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to give Mopani $100 million so that they can pay off the contractors and start producing the copper. But on condition that ZCCHI should also raise $100 million. So that when we put $100 million, Glencore puts $100 million, and ZCCHI puts $100 million, you're going to have $200 million. From the $200 million, plus that $15 million which was already pumped, obviously it reduces the bill. You're going to remain with a change of close to $50 to $60 million for Mopani to start going forward, yes. But again, obviously, that issue, ZCCHI is a government entity, it is listed on LUCE. There are a lot of stakeholders who need to approve that ZCCHI should remove $100 million and invest in a mine, which is being evaluated. So obviously, there's still a lot of debates, a lot of decisions to be made. But my appeal is to ZCCHI. Today I saw the new CEO at ZCCHI. The issues of Mpani, there is the matter of life and death. We don't have any more time to lose. If ZCCHI has that money, I mean, ZCCHI should raise that money to put together with Glencoe to push into that mine. But from the reports I'm getting, Doc, and from the body language and so from the president, the whole package which is going to be put into that mine to ensure that the mine, we extend the life of the mine for another 40 years, is almost complete. So we are sitting on two possible solutions. It's either to find the 100 million to invest with the Glencoe so that the mine continue running for another 18 months while these administrative procedure being done to find the 1.5 billion to clear off Glencoe and the $300 million to increase, to finish the project. We are almost at a point where one decision may override both possible options. But the more we are trying to put more money in the mine becomes risky. The equipment becomes risky. The equipment becomes obsolete. And when the equipment is not performing, obviously it becomes a risk to the people who are working with it.
You are watching Economic Briefcase on Camden TV. Director, let's see if we can take some messages. You can, by the way, call us on the numbers that are appearing on the screen. Director, let's check if there's some messages for us. We don't have messages. So you said there's an option of us getting something that is more like going to override. So I would propose maybe there's some equity investor that might come in.
Yes, obviously we are talking of, on paper it's a 2 billion investment you're looking for.
Yes.
The 1.5 to pay off Glencoe, just in case that amount hasn't been evaluated.
Yes.
Because there's an independent evaluator with Rothschild who are looking at the real 1.5 Glencoe is claiming. Is it really worth that amount? Was it that investment, the investment which Glencoe added to the mine, is it equivalent to that amount? Then there's also the $300 million which you need to finish off the project, plus the $200 million to pay off the contractors and remain with the $60 million for it to continue running as a mine. So you're looking at a $2 billion. This is a total package. So from the body language and the sentiment the president was saying today on the copper belt, he said Mupani is almost a closed deal. So,
Pedco, I don't think Pedco falls under your constituency, but it's related.
Well, it does affect the economic activities in
yes.
Mufulira. Yes.
What's the story with Pedco?
Well, our Pedco, no, not Pedco. Before even going to Pedco, we have the Mukambo Mufulira road,
yes,
which has been damaged heavily. A road which was given to, there's Mukambo Mufulira Ndola Road,
yes,
which was contracted to Inyasi.
Yes.
And Inyasi was paid the 368 million kwacha in 2017. Wow. The last payment was done on 12th August. While everyone was busy voting, they were paid 29 million kwacha over the work they never did.
In 2021,
12th August, there was a payment which was pushed to Inyasi of 29 million kwacha. It was, well, they were paid. So the total is 368 million kwacha was paid to Inyasi, but they never did any work on that road. So the Ndola Mufulira Road, Mufulira Mukambo Road, even before going to Pedco, yes, it's so damaged that it's an impossible road. It is a road which you wouldn't even want to look twice at it. However, we are not here to condemn what happened in the past. We are just making references so that people can understand where we are. However, on that road, in the 2022 budget, under the PPP, it's one of the roads which has been earmarked to be done under PPP. So we hope before the end of March, that road, the negotiation with the investors will be concluded so that road is done. What has increased the poverty levels in Mufulira is because while the mine is struggling, even the trade, there's no trade which is coming through. There's no much activity because the mine is almost closed. The town is almost closed. Mufulira is on the borderline. So once you cut off the road supplying through the borderline, the activity is going down. So Doc, I want to also make it, inform the people in Mufulira and Kankwe in particular to say that task they gave me to engage SEC to investigate on the 268 million.
Yes, I read about that one.
Yeah, the 268 million which was paid to Inyasi. We are not witch hunting. All what we want to know is that money should be paid back because it never did any work. 268 million could have done quite a good number of kilometers to prevent where we are today. SEC, they have written back to me. They have told me to say they have made serious progress in the investigations. They will soon inform the nation on what is coming, or I mean what is the next stage which they are going to take. So the SEC Director General, the new SEC Director General has written back to me. I've got a letter today, which I'll be able to share with the community when I go back to visit them, to say they are working on that cry, to say we need to recover this money. As the people coming from Mufria, we are so upset and not happy with the way that transaction was handled. 12th August, there was literally no government in place. How did RDA manage to pay a contractor who never did anything on the road? 29 million kwacha is a lot of money. So we are pursuing it to the bitter end of it. We are not looking at personality, we are not looking at skin color. All we want, the money which was robbed from the people of Mufira is paid back with interest. Yes.
Honorable, what are your comments on the current condition of living when it comes to milling prices and the liquidity in the market?
Well, obviously the cost of living remains very high. The cost of living remains very high and is quite unaffordable to the majority Zambians. Why? Because obviously the employment levels are very high. When you're not employed, you don't have an income. So whatever increases the price obviously reduces their spending power. So the little income you're having when the cost of, the cost of the goods and services you are buying increases, it reduces your spending power. Now, when you look at the economic fundamentals, why are we always talking about the cost of living without looking at the cost of production? Because in economic fundamentals, before you can determine the price of something, there's always a cost which goes on in there. I can give an example, maybe the cost of milling. We are always looking at the selling price of milling without looking at how much it is costing to produce that one bag of milling. How much input are going in? How much the cost of fertilizer? How much is the productivity? How much does the farmer, the person who's producing the maize, are we giving them a price which is going to encourage them to grow more and obviously be able to sell more? So from the sentiments I think the president has been giving, the European government is more focused on reducing the cost of production to reduce the cost of living. If you don't produce something, you have no control over the price you're going to sell at it. The fact that Zambia is importing almost everything becomes impossible to control the cost of living. So the only way we're going to control the cost of living, like I was giving an example in Kankoyo, we realize to say we don't have the power to always compete against the price of milling, which usually you've seen goes up during the rain season. When there's low demand of maize on the copper belt, there's low supply of maize on the copper belt. The first province to be hit with the high price of milling is the copper belt because we don't have maize there. So us in Kankoyo, we thought the only way we're going to manage, start reducing the cost of living, is to start producing our own maize. That's why even I was talking about the tractor. When we produce our own maize, and it's not only producing, the huge ratepayer area being covered. Doc, I'm not trying to be a racist, but I'm trying to put across a point to say, why is it that a white farmer under 1 hectare, they're able to harvest as much as 200 bags per hectare? But a Zambian, on average, they harvest over 25, 30 bags. You're using the same quantity of fertilizer, the same acid. Yeah, maybe the labor costs may differ because Zambians usually use our own children or relatives to cultivate the field. But the cost of fertilizer, going to put in 8 bags there of D compound, 8 bags of urea, at the 30 kgs of seed. But someone who has put the same input is going to harvest 200 bags, but you only harvest 25 bags. So that's a loss already. So you cannot reduce the cost of milling without reducing the cost of producing that maize which are producing. So that's why this UPND government, I think our focus, even the president yesterday, he mentioned about increasing yield per hectare. Not just a matter of producing maize, but it's a matter of how much are you producing from the efforts you're putting in. So if someone produces 200 bags and they sell...
We have our first caller. Your name and where you're calling from?
Hello?
Hello, your name and where you're calling from?
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you.
Hello?
We can hear you. Your name and where you're calling from?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Fine, thank you. Good evening, sir.
Hello?
Hello,
Yes,
good
we can
evening.
get you.
Go ahead. We lost our first caller. Maybe before. Director, the messages, have they loaded? So Zambia is for Zambians, and we're happy with the freedom we're all experiencing so far. UPND has brought so much opportunities for Zambians. Mr. Mameta is young and energetic, and he has the brain, so he needs people to support him and work with him and not frustrate his good motives towards his constituency. Good evening, brethren. Well-articulated issues. Keep up the good work. Deri Kaira Kitwe. Good evening, my MP. Kwena Kwankwayo, people are suffering, no water. Do something, Kuriba Mlonga. Your reaction?
Yeah.
The Mlonga one?
Yeah, I think the water issue, I think this is a good reminder, Doc, of what we've done as the government. That just like I talked about, the investor confidence which we had. In 2017, the World Bank, the European Union, gave the Republic of Zambia an offer to say they are going to give along 150 million euros to rebuild the water education system in Mufurira, Chingola, and Chilabombe. Obviously, because of that, we know these financial issues. Zambia defaulted. Zambia's image became so bad that no one was willing to push money. To push money in an economy which was defaulting. So obviously, there was holding back. But immediately there was change of government. There was that relaxation on the investor confidence started building up. We are not yet there where we want to be. But because of that goodwill which the government demonstrated, obvious, the strong message by President Takande Chema to say there was not going to be any tolerance to corruption. That man has been released as we are talking now. If you are to walk into Butondo, you are going to Chingola, you go to Chilabombe. There are contractors working on rebuilding the 70-year-old water recreation system, more especially that it was steel. They're replacing it with the modern PVC to improve water supply. So I can assure the people in Kankoyo to say before the end of this year, they're going to have running water in their homes, which is safe and clean. But before that, due to the increase in the CDF, we are sinking boreholes across the constituents. They can, I'm sure those who sent the message, they can attest to me to say, in Kankoyo can't walk more than 30 kilometers, more than 10 meters without finding a source where we have sunk boreholes. The hand pump boreholes and also the water, this modern water recreation system.
We have a caller. Yes, your name and where you're calling from? Hello, your name and where you're calling from? I think we need to work on it so that we're able to pick up our callers.
Yes, so on the
Especially
water,
that they have put aside Manchester United versus Barcelona to come and call.
yes, so using CDF, we are providing option B, but there's a permanent solution which is coming because that's water education which is being rebuilt. It's going to last over our generation. There are overhead tanks. There's a lot of projects being done under that area. I'm sure those people who are complaining, if they are to go to Utondo today, they will find the 1 million overhead tank, 1 million liters overhead. Yes, 1 million overhead tank liter which has been erected already. We're just waiting for them to finish laying down the pipes to go in the houses so that water which will be pumped in that tank will go and feed the people what they need. So by the end of this year, I've been in Butondo since the time I was 12 years. I've never seen water running in my father's house. So I can tell them to say that problem which we inherited from the time we are young is going to be the thing of the past. We promised that we're going to deliver water in the homes, not the boreholes were sinking, they're just temporal. They'll be able to have water. So that project is running and everything is moving smoothly.
So just to go back on the cost of living, of course, load shedding has come to an end now, so maybe we can see a reduction on the milling prices because of the cost of production. Maybe we'll reduce because of not using generators or alternative power sources. But what's the situation on the Zambia-Congo border in regards to export of maize and milling meal?
Well, the demand for milling meal remains high, 800,000 metric tons per year. I think 2022, the government opened up the borders. We had a lot of maize, and 800 metric tons has gone into that market. In 2019-2020, we lost that market because we had the habit of you export, then you stop. So the Congo people need to survive. They had to find option B, so they started buying the milling meal from South Africa. And also because of our inconsistencies in a supply of the staple food in Congo. Congolese, through their Moses Katumbi, I think they have put up a good agriculture system where they are now able to produce their own maize and mill it. So if we continue becoming consistent, the people in Congo, they are going to shut up that market. They are going to start producing their own milling meal. However, as a country, as we have said, if we continue increasing productivity, the government gives 1 million, a minimum of 1 million farmers every year under PCF. We only produce a maximum. I think the best we did was in 2018 when we got 3.2 million metric tons of maize. If you do your mathematics, Doc, just simple mathematics, 1 million farmers, they are getting 200 bags of maize per hectare. We're supposed to have at least a minimum of 5 million metric tons. So why are we losing it? The government puts in the inputs to produce 5 million, but only getting 2.7, 2.8. There's something you're not doing right.
We have our caller. Let's hope. Yes, your name and where you're calling from?
Yes, I'm calling from Charana.
Yes, sir, you can go ahead. Your name?
Yes, my concern. Yes, first and foremost, now from a why? Because of the reliance of this governance of institution. To watch you people speaking to the public is big shameful to us as Zambian people. I'm Chirali Jackson calling Chalala. We are vulnerable people, certain governance of both governments and have that access. We are suffering. But you are being preaching and getting this nation to say we are controlling this thing. What is it trying to do to this nation so that this nation should not be in the same nation which we saw in before colonialists? Today people are saying you are saying it right thing. But they can tell no which is colonial. Yeah? You know the people of children. One time we are going to but why is the government? The government that when all the money to vote, that will change for better. Please, our members can call. If you come out and tell us, we are suffering so much. Why should we buy a view of what is better? That moving at the time. But them to do the 200 something, you are there, you are there. Which is something which is, I don't know, but you are just not finding a way to
Thank you for that contribution. Your comments, Honorable.
Yeah, kuri batata wakushinga, I think it's in Chararai.
Yes.
And they chetekeranga mwali konka sana ifi chitabayo mpiba given katuta kushinga ndemo na uyu mwaka wapitire barishitako tractor na bena yakuwe bati bafusha obulimi kuchengi kwina ko mwafu mwafyashi okwina kuchengi ko mwafu mwafyashi ba government ba UPND bali kwata kutupera bonse fema yompizi CDF 25.7. So for the first time chengi na ikwata 25.7 yakuwe bati bamaye katuta nebumba lyabo babombere po kupanga tuma bridge twakutwala ku mabarako abantu bakola limena na tractor ida for making sure kweba tabana besobera kuma skulu n'abakwata pa kwikara pasuma amenshi bamayefu nga bale mukumabara balesenda amenshi ali clean fina twabi kama balls so abacha pisho kweba tingwa buteko finshi bule chitapa kweba tunasheko buchoshi abantu barambo kwidimina nomba muna ndakwa tubuteko na butupera ama resources aya kuwa mtama constituency muna mwene twikere chachine kutsa wakati kuni mefintu fyadi fya shupa fyadi shupa ngama MPs ndende muna benga ma MPs ngaba bavotera twalesangu kama beggars gogo ningala ndo kweba white collar beggars bantu twalepitana mu ma office ya pusana kufaya at in the name of lobbying ulelo mboko atakupera ma resources ya kuwonja pakta develop constituency nomba buteko na butupera 25.7 mu 2022 na 28.3 mu 2023 na eleisa so mpamya shibiri twara kwata 56 million nishine mpina rapose instokola pitana mu office kola lobbying instead ya kwa mkwikala nabana ndukumono kweba tubusheshi mpya batupere twarachi bompya shana so therefore kwa chinko yako fe batato kweba ati ifintu kunira content fyarango kapantu nomba wa mpina tureko kwa mabeggars we are now decision makers.
Yes, hello, and where are you calling from? Hello?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
How are you, Honorable?
Good evening, sir. How are you today?
Good. How are you, Doctor?
So, boss, so.
Good, Doctor. Doctor, Honorable Marita.
Yes.
I just want to find out something from you because, you sound very, very humble.
Oh.
You sound very humble and very smart in the way you talk.
Okay.
But let's understand properly. Is the CPF you are talking about, does really CPF money exist or is it just on paper? Because I can give you an example of material constituents where I stay. They have never given a big lottery being done here in material. Nothing. We don't know if the money exists. Not even a big lottery in material. I don't know even people who perish from this cholera which has come. No, we don't even be able to collect the waste from our homes. Yeah? If we have for CPF, we could have purchased the vehicle to collect them.
Thank you, Ravid.
Okay. Does CDF exist? As far as I'm concerned, all the 156 constituents were given 25.7 at the same time without any segregation. Now, he's talking about garbage collection, obviously. Among the projects of impact on a dock in Kankoyo is obvious, is waste management. To collect the garbage, what we've done in Kankoyo is we bought a skip truck and 15 skip bins. These skip bins were going to be put in strategic areas where we are generating a lot of waste. So that at a point of collection, people can choose, we want to start harvesting that garbage. There's this modern technology where you can recycle waste. So at a point of collection, when something can be used for biogas, you're going to separate it. Those plastics which can be recycled. So what they should just put, maybe what I can ask from Honorable Mao Sampa today is, the money is there. Maybe all they need is to increase the rate at which they're going to spend. But again, I can't blame the MPs. You know why? Lusaka has got over 5 or 6 constituencies,
yes.
which are being managed by one local government. In Mufira, maybe we're a little bit lucky because we only have 3 constituencies. So the volume of work which the people working for local government is not as huge as what's happening in Lusaka. So what they need, maybe the government, I'm sure the CDF Act is coming to Parliament, the Procurement Act is coming to Parliament this session to change a lot of things, to ensure that it can also respond to those constituencies where there is, the constituencies are more than, especially Lusaka and Kitwe. But I can assure them to say, CDF is there. I was talking about the tractors. In the 2023 budget, what we prioritize is to ensure that as a means of closing up the gap, water supply, we are buying 5,000 liters of water bowsers. Those water bowsers which will be powered by the tractor. As we are working on the project, the tractors will be going around distributing water to make it easy for the people to have access to the water. Then in addition to the skip bins, we're also buying trailers, so that we increase the rate at which we are collecting the garbage. But this garbage, we are not going to throw it. We are also buying a biodigester, a 12 cubic biodigester, so that we can start producing cooking gas as well as organic fertilizer from the waste. I was talking to a gentleman who's specialized in recycling of waste. I'm visiting him next week to go understand how he has managed. He was there right here in Lusaka, is recycling the waste to produce different type of products. So we're going to learn so that we can take this technology to the people of Kanko to also start using that garbage to produce different products. So for us, we are using this CDF as an opportunity. As I said, Doc, I don't need to go into NGOs anymore to start begging for resources. All I need is to focus on what I already have. A bed in your hand is worth 2 beds out of the bush. Those days when MPs were moving from one office to another, just to look for resources to spend it on constituency, they're over. All we need now is to turn the resource into an opportunity.
Director, let's look at our last round of messages before we call it a day. And we have a call. Let's pick the call. Hello, Shariano, Nogomle Tumina.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir, your name and where you're calling from?
This is Mr. Mongo. I'm calling you from Kaoma.
Yes, how is Kaoma?
Kaoma is fine, Doc.
You Kaoma people are stingy. There's nothing you're bringing us to Lusaka nowadays. Akino naba wapira. Nyapira.
How are you, sir?
Good evening. How is Kaoma today?
Kaoma is fantastic, honorable.
Thank you.
Sure, sir. I just want to congratulate your government, honorable.
Okay.
Yes, we are really appreciating. Your government is really trying. It's only that most of the people, the children, they are more of the party government. Because even when we were in DF, during January, February, March, the prices were always up. But we have seen the measures the government has taken to drive the prices. Development, we are seeing it. For the first time, people are producing it from their own district. In the past, the reduced tax were coming from foreign land. This time, people are empowered. So we have seen a number of teachers who were maneuvering around. They are now working as government workers. We have seen the numbers. So if we start complaining bigger to this government, we are just going to be very unfair. You are still bringing a lot of development in our constituency. So I just want to say, keep it down, please.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We also go to the messages. So good evening, panel. Honorable mining in Zambia seems to be a nightmare. Why is it that our neighbor DRC is doing farmers better than us in this area and they have managed to raise their production levels in copper and other minerals? Where are we missing it? Why can't we borrow the best practices? Is it lack of clear policy direction? Or are we operating under what they call the case of natural resources? The development analyst, God help Mother Zambia. Honorable, what will happen to water bills? We are being built by Mulonga in areas where water is not available for years. I think we can just, to conclude, react to the phone call and all the messages that you have received.
Well, I think on the mining, from the submission, he's a mining expert, and I can see that he knows where the problem has been. Policy inconsistency, an attractive tax, I can say tax setups, plus the fights which we had where First Quantum and the government were in court. Glencore and the government were in court. We also had the Vendetta, they were in court. So when the investors are being pushed in the court, we have a relationship where we are always resolving issues in courts. What suffers is the grass. So what has put mining down? Congo, for sure, 10 years ago, They are producing less than 300 metric tons of copper. Today, Congo is producing 1.5 million. Same area, same grade. Zambia was producing 800 metric tons of copper since 1973. We haven't grown much. So the issue of poor policies and fights with investors. Immediately to start fighting with investors, those who've got money, they'll hold on. They're going to wait and see how you're going to finish your battles. And today, I think I heard the president, I followed him very well when he was talking about vendetta, KCM. And it was very clear to say, we cannot resolve KCM without involving vendetta. So vendetta is already involved in the KCM embargo. If we want to take the populist route, where we want to push vendetta away, vendetta is going back to court, and they're going to get an injunction. To be another 10 years of a case like he's talking about. So as a government, you have taken the position of doing the right thing. We don't resolve disputes in court. Quite well. And no matter how aggrieved we are, Doc, if you and me have a dispute, we go to court. The court rules that the one was right and you have to compensate me. You're going to compensate me, but you remain hurt. So that won't rebuild the relationship. But if we can sit down and resolve issues out of court, we are going to have an amicable solution. But the plea is, even when vendetta is coming, I heard the Minister of Mines, he gave a serious warning to say, we are not going to see the old vendetta. We are going to give them serious benchmarks on which should they fail, we have no time to waste, we are going to break that relationship. So those benchmarks, I just want to ask the Minister of Mines, maybe, let him bring the conditions they are going to give to vendetta in Parliament so that the public can be aware, and as MPs we can have the voice of what the people out there are feeling about how vendetta treated them, the lost trust, and what was broken. Otherwise, we cannot continue delaying that asset. KCM has been damaged to a point where should we continue fighting, that one is going to close indefinitely. Coming to the other, I think, submissions over what the government is doing, and you know, in a democracy, we respect people's views of this. What makes us work is the negative work, and say the punch we are receiving from our colleagues. There's load shedding, you get the punch, the pressure is there, you quickly resolve that problem because there's a lot of pressure coming from the opposition. And that's how democracy works. And that's the beauty of democracy. When you have a strong opposition, the ruling party performs. When load shedding ends, who benefits? The majority Zambians. So you might feel the PF are complaining too much. Their complaints are what's keeping us working. And for me, I'd want them to continue complaining so that by 2025, there will be no more complaints, and the Zambians will be able to benefit from the things they're going to do. So the growth, the benefit of democracy, the competition. And where there's competition, there's quality products, and the customer benefits, the customer, the voters. So me, I'm enjoying the competition. Although sometimes comes a bit of pressure, but I think we're learning to handle it because they're overcoming the challenges which we're facing.
Honorable, thank you. It was a pleasure having you. I think we have interacted with people from Freeland, from, as far as, Western Province. I think for us, just to react to the caller from Mochara, for us, we have no shame to come and speak to the people. I think such is a platform where government officials come and explain what they are doing. The country is too big, you can't know everything that is happening. Sometimes somebody can be giving you a service and you don't know that service is happening. For example, I didn't know that water is being done in Freeland, Chingola, and Chilawombo. Mr. Japao, if there's anything, if there's nothing, colleagues, you were watching Economic Briefcase on Camnet TV. Today we had Honorable Watson Maveta, MP for Kankoyo, and we were discussing politics and its role in national economic development, and basically, development in general. I'm your host, Winda Wazoka, my co-host, on behalf of my co-host, Noah Japao. See you next week. Continue watching Camnet TV because Camnet TV is not just another channel. See you on Thursday.